All right, so I took a photo of my city drawing and I just used my phone because that's what I had, but we can use a scanner to get a little bit better results. Here it is, I saved it on my desktop. I'm going to right click on it and open it with Photoshop. There's a couple other ways to do that, but this is an easy way to do it. You can see it looks pretty blue. So that's just what my phone did when it took the picture, but we can adjust those things. So to adjust it, which I'm actually gonna make a copy of this layer. I'm gonna right click on it and duplicate the layer and say okay. And we'll work on the top layer and we can go back and see the difference between this after I change the levels on things. So I'm gonna head up here to image, go to adjustments, and we're gonna change the levels. Over here we have these little eyedroppers, and when I click on this, it wants me to click on the black part of the image. So here's kind of the darkest part. I think I'm going to click on one that's a little bit more gray to help it adjust things. So I'm going to click, and you can see how it darkened things up right there. Then I'm going to grab this eyedropper, which is for selecting the white part of the image. So if I click here and tell the computer I want this part of my image to be white, it's going to know to change things up. So change things pretty quick. We'll say okay. Let's also crop off this extra part of my photo that I don't want. So I'm going to grab the crop tool right here, and I can drag in the corners of here and drag it in. And things might not be quite level also, I'm seeing, which here, let's crop real quick. To adjust things if they're not quite level, I'm going to go to edit, and I'm going to go to free transform. And I'm going to wait till my cursor is this rounded double arrow, and I can click and drag and get it where I want it and hit enter on my keyboard. And then I can go back to my crop tool, and I could crop a little bit more and try to get rid of that extra little bit. And we should be mostly level now. I'll hit enter on my keyboard. Missed just a little tiny bit. Enter on my keyboard. I can hit the hand tool and it will center things up for me. And now we can see my photo before and my photo after. And I think we've changed it quite a bit. And we can start to fill in some colors, but I'm going to use my color scheme that I selected before. So I'm going to move my window, and I'm going to drag in a color scheme that I can use to pick colors from. And I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard. Actually, I'm going to move that up a little bit out of the way and make sure I'm on the correct layer that I want to be recoloring. And I can go over and I can use this eyedropper tool. I'll click on that and it will pick out colors for me. So if I click on here, we can see right down here that it selected that color for me to work with. And I can use this paint bucket tool, and anywhere I click with it, it's going to fill in the color in the area that's enclosed by my black pen drawing. And I can start to fill things in. And you'll remember I talked about enclosing all the areas. So we can look at, here, let me pick a different color. So I'm going to pick this color up here and go back to my paint bucket. And if I click on these areas, it'll fill them in. They're enclosed. But if I go to click on this area right here, I can see right in here, I didn't quite close that in. So if I use my paint bucket tool and I click on here, it's going to fill in a bigger area than I want. I'm going to do Control Z, or I can go up to Edit and I can undo my last step. So I need to enclose that in. So I could get my paintbrush tool, and I'm just going to use black, and we can zoom in on it either using Zoom tool or Control Plus is the keyboard shortcut. I'm going to grab our paintbrush and I'm going to close that spot in now. I'll double click on my hand to recenter my artwork and go back to my paint bucket. Make sure I got the color I want to use also. I'm going to use my eyedropper to select a color from up here. Get my paint bucket again. And now if I click on this section, it's only going to fill in the part that I want it to. So that's why filling things in beforehand is going to save you a lot of time. It's not so fun to have to go back and close every little spot that you missed, which I can see even more spots that I missed. But from here, you can start going in and filling in colors. If you want to adjust your colors a little bit, you can. It makes sense to lighten things up a little bit. So I'm going to double click on here, and I want the front of this building to be a little bit lighter. So I double clicked on my color down here, and I can go and just pick a little lighter version of that. So we're still using the same color scheme. And that wasn't a huge change, but we can work with the same color scheme and lighten or darken things up a little bit to put into our image. So from there, you can start to fill things in. It is possible to do gradients and those kind of things. I think I'm gonna stop this video here, but you can do some gradients. You can use the brush tool to add in some details, but I think those are some things that probably are better for a later time. And that's it.